So we look forward to that progressing through the House. Thank you.
Call the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Mr Speaker, if that member's speech was an indication of the level of commitment and passion that the National Government have to this particular bill, well, I can tell you now it will be going nowhere very quickly. And in fact, that's why the bill is being introduced just before the end of this parliamentary term, because the National Government have no intention whatsoever to continue this bill beyond the next election. And because if they did, they would have introduced it 6 months after, Mr Speaker, they'd been elected as government, as the supply and confidence agree somewhat indicated. So while that member had all the passion of a wooden block when he spoke to the particular details of the bill, well, I hear it is an improvement, but actually I've heard him in other forums and he's actually not too bad. It's clearly an indication that the National Government do not intend to progress this bill, and I struggled, Mr Speaker, when I was reading through the intent of the bill and its purpose. I did struggle to see why we were debating this bill at this late stage in the parliamentary term, and I think it's just an absolute affront to members in the House that we're even spending time on it. Labour will not support the bill. It doesn't see the need to be able to progress a bill like this. If you're looking at the intent of the bill, putting a spending cap on government spending. In fact, what that is an affront to how good ministers actually do manage their vote and try and ensure, in the context of the time, that they're managing their budgets accordingly and are able to ensure that they're keeping within budget for the most part. But what this bill isn't addressing one iota is actually the level of debt that this government is going into to fund tax cuts. And I'd far rather debate that as an issue and a very real concern, because that's the type of concern New Zealanders do have. Why are you providing tax cuts to the top 3% of income earners and borrowing for it? Mr Speaker, that is a question that Kiwis, when they want to make a decision about who they support at government, that's the type of stuff they want to hear this Parliament debating. They also want to hear what is the government doing to ensure that more young people, more young Māori and Pacific people are going to be trained and employed. Because what that would lead them to is the government's investment policies in skills and training, and what is happening within that vote. And in fact, yes, there is a cap on the spend in that particular area, because the government is currently pulling funding away from skills training under tertiary education, which makes it harder for those providers to get young people employment ready to be able to get a job if there is a job out there. Mr Speaker, I would far rather spend time in this House debating those types of issues rather than this bill, spending cap, People's Veto Bill, which we know in this House will not see the light of day beyond the next election. So why are we bothering, Mr Speaker? Why are we bothering when the very real and pressing issues facing Kiwis out there is about what the government's not spending and the priorities that are not being addressed, which are affecting everyday Kiwi families? Things like the greater inequality that Māori and Pacific children are facing, where 1 in 5 are in a benefit-dependent household. 1 in 5, great majority Māori and Pacific children. What's happening there? The spending cap there actually is an affront to the greatest level of inequality of the most vulnerable young people that we have in this country, and we're not debating that issue at all, yet we should be. Instead, we're debating a bill that will not see the light of day beyond the next election, and it is terrible. Terrible. I just look forward to the next member who will take a call on this bill to justify why we're not debating the pressing issues in this House that are facing Kiwis and New Zealanders, vulnerable, low-income, modest-income families, and the issues that they really want addressed. Instead, what the government has put Parliament in the position of doing is debating a bill that is a sop to an outgoing member of Parliament, soon to leave this House, with no intention whatsoever to pursue this through the Select Committee. Now, if the next member taking the call can assure this House that it will not only go to Select Committee, they will call for submissions on this particular bill in the same session that is going to be tabled at Select Committee before the House rises, then I'd be very happy to sit and reflect on my comments. If they could further give a guarantee that this bill may be picked up beyond the next election, then let them stand in the House and put their name on the record to give that undertaking. Because what I can say right now is that this very late stage leading to the election, where we are looking at a first reading, sending it to Select Committee before the election on a bill that the government members certainly have no passion whatsoever to endorse. Not Amy Adams, not David Bennett, and I'm sure not the next member who is going to follow me. None of them will have any sufficient passion to convince any person listening to this debate that the national government will continue with this particular bill. We know it's a waste of time. We're not supporting it. We understand that, in fact, good governments and good ministers do manage their votes and are quite upfront and clear about their priorities when they're looking at their portfolio and where they're going to shift their priority spend. That's a far better, transparent way for all Kiwis to understand what the government priorities are, where funding will be attributed to, and where the priority spend will be. Far more transparent, far more accountability, far greater opportunity for Kiwis to see what the government stands for and its priorities. Instead, this government wants to continue down a path of vaguing some vague priorities that are going to be, I think, slipped away, and people aren't debating the real issues like we should be. We should be debating why Māori and Pacific youth unemployment has gone up, why there is not enough spending in upskilling and training those young people, why there is greater inequality in households in New Zealand where low and vulnerable families, and especially Māori and Pacific children, are becoming more vulnerable under this government. And we should be debating in this House, Mr Speaker, with respect, the very serious issue around the lack of jobs in our community, so that we can provide people with a real plan for growth and opportunity so that they can get a job, put kai on the table and feed their whānau. It's that simple. This bill has no future in this House, and I challenge the next national government member to tell us the same.